What a day. What a lovely, lovely day. Yeah, I know that was pretty lame, but I can't help my excitement because this week we are talking about Mad Max Fury Road. And spoilers, this movie is friggin' awesome. So make sure if you haven't yet, the last MySequel was on Mad Max The Road Warrior, another awesome Mad Max movie. So make sure to check that out, if you get a chance before you listen to this one, or I don't know, do whatever you want. Good for you. So go ahead, strap in, get those headphones on, and enjoy MySequel, Mad Max Fury Road. This is the MySequel podcast, and I'm your host, Derek Olson. Tonight, we've got with us Robert Soderstrom.
Oh, I'm here. It's me.
Ryan Brewer.
Yeah.
And Matt Pittman.
Hello, everyone.
I don't know why that made me laugh. So we are doing, those of you, if you haven't listened to it yet, make sure you go back and listen. I would definitely recommend listening to it before you listen to this one. We did a discussion on The Road Warrior as a sequel. And tonight, though, we're going to talk about the newest Mad Max movie, Fury Road, which is kind of fun because, in a way, so far all the movies we've done have been direct sequels to movies, and this is kind of our first. We'll get into this, if it's a reboot or not, but I think this is kind of our first movie that is, there's a lot of time in between sequels this time. As opposed to some of our other ones. So yeah, we're going to talk about Fury Road. Now, usually we do a breakdown of the first movie. We're not really going to do that this time. Again, if you're interested in the earlier Mad Max movies, definitely go check out our last episode about The Road Warrior. We're going to kind of dive more headfirst into Fury Road. And one of the reasons why I kind of want to do Fury Road and wanted Matt here, you'll notice who's usually with us, Jake Kiley. He's not with us tonight. He's working.
That's 2 weeks in a row. Jake Kiley missed out on this podcast.
Yes, 2 weeks. Yes, it's been a week in between recording. Just believe us on that one. So, but I wanted Matt here for when we're talking about Fury Road because I think Fury Road, this is got to be one of your favorite movies, isn't it?
Yeah, I would say right now it's probably my favorite, or at least like top 2 or 3.
How many times did you go see this in the theater?
3. I was close to going a 4th time, but didn't quite get around to it.
I think you can open your beer more quietly.
That's not a beer.
It's a Barks root beer, isn't it?
It's a Bargs Red Cream Soda. Oh. If Bargs would like to give us money, I'll give a shout out. Bargs Red Cream Soda.
But please don't sue us for mentioning you.
Yeah.
So it tied the movie I've seen in the theaters most with Jurassic Park 3.
Yeah, which is this. I remember it because I saw Jurassic Park. Did we go all 3 times together?
I went.
I saw that 3 times in the theater.
Why would you watch it one time fully?
I like Jurassic Park 3.
I do too. I saw it. No, I saw it with my family. I saw it with you. I might have seen it with you or my family twice. I can't remember, but yeah I saw that one 3 times. So
I regret having not seen Fury Road in the theater. I ended up waiting until Blu-ray.
It was
you have
just
to leave. You've got to.
It was
the
a
hell
great,
out.
it was a great
I
experience.
really wanted to punch myself in the dick. I think I deserved it.
It was and because the first time that Matt saw it was the first time, right?
Yeah,
it was Robert.
Yeah,
Matt
because we went to it opening weekend.
Yep.
And I distinctly remember more than one time, all of us verbally going, "Holy shit!" out loud. Like
Yeah.
I know that happened more than one time.
Yes, it was a fun movie to see in the theaters.
And like not even that long into the movie, I was like, I just wanted to like take it in several times, just because it's really been a long time since I've seen a movie like that where like I felt like I had to see it on the big screen because like I've kind of felt like less and less like actually going to see movies for a long time, but this was one time where I don't even remember what the last movie like that was, like that I felt like just I had to see it like that. And
yeah, so I think you'll probably gather pretty quickly, listener, that we all really like Fury Road.
I gotta say, for me, I didn't expect what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I didn't see Mad Max or Mad Max Fury Road in a theater, Thunderdome, or in a theater. I'd seen them on a small screen, and they're good movies, but they were never in my favorite group, right? So I knew I was going to see a decent movie, but holy shit, was that a good movie? Like, that was nuts. I mean, it was so insanely well done and big as life, and that was an awesome movie that you didn't get to see in the theater. Neener, neener, neener.
Yeah,
I-
well,
I
I
feel
still
bad
watched it on
for
a
it.
big screen with good surround sound, so there. All right, it's not like I watched it on a freaking tube TV from the 80s.
You didn't watch
or
it on your
something like that.
iPhone?
We're just watching it.
Yeah, that's a good way.
This is a great movie, guys. Watching
don't.
it on my little iPhone here.
Don't watch Fury Road on your phone.
Please don't.
Surprisingly, I've only watched it one time since it came out, but sometimes you want to let things sit for a while too,
Yeah.
and then
Go back to it.
binge on it again later.
Yeah, no, Fury Road. So the most recent Mad Max movie came out in 2015. Thunderdome was the 80s. So it's been a while. During that time, they were hoping to make more Mad Max movies. There were supposed to be. There's been a lot of talk in the past of. I know they wanted to do another Mel Gibson one for a while, but then I think it was either Passion of the Christ or Apocalypto caused a problem with making it, so it wasn't made.
Both.
Yeah, so it kind of there was supposed to be one. And then it didn't happen. So time kind of passed, and then eventually we got where Mel Gibson was just kind of too old to play the part for what they wanted to do, and
And
so
a little
Tom,
too crazy.
Yeah,
Ironic.
he
for a
is
guy who
Mad
played
Max now. But was replaced by Tom Hardy, who I think was. What do you guys think? I think he was a great choice.
I thought he was amazing. Actually.
Yeah, like-
I would cast Tom Hardy as anything
Yeah.
if it was my choice, really, because I just love Tom Hardy. I think he's a great actor.
Yes.
He was a superior Mad Max. Mel Gibson was a great Mad Max, but Hardy's insane. Like,
Yeah.
There's
he
something
has
just
got
really
a
raw about
wild-
what he does.
He
you know?
just
Part of
looks
it-
like he fits the part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Well, and
that's a
apparently,
big
too,
thing.
reading some interesting stuff from behind the scenes is Tom Hardy hated making this movie. Mm-hmm. I think. So
I don't
did
think
Charlize.
anybody
I think
enjoyed it,
everybody.
actually.
Well, to
didn't.
be clear, if you watch like the behind the scenes stuff, I don't know who would enjoy this other than
George
the director.
Miller.
Yeah.
No, but apparently Tom Hardy was fucking pissed making the entire movie and was mad at Charlize Theron through a lot of it. And there was, which I think maybe lends itself to his performance of a crazy
Well,
person.
I think he actually mentions that in one of the behind the scenes things about how he it was almost kind of part of his method for the movie
Right.
was that he just kind of stayed mad through the whole thing. It's just
And I think that's one of the interesting things. One of the interesting things that they did with Fury Road, as opposed to the earlier Mad Maxes, is I mean we see kind of shades of maybe what you could consider PTSD in earlier Mad Max movies. He's got problems, but they don't affect him that much in the earlier movies. But this movie, he is not right.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's a
Mad
little off
Max
the
is
wall in
not
this one.
right in his what's happening to him. So, but I like that. It makes it a pretty interesting. That's kind of the thing when we're talking about being a sequel. Of why we talk about certain movies. We don't talk about every sequel. But I think what makes this one interesting is that it's so far later, but it's supposed to tie into the originals. But it's
So we're definitely calling this a sequel and not a reboot.
I think you call it a sequel because
I think you
there's
would too.
I think there's nothing about it that necessarily precludes the Road Warrior or Thunderdome from happening, or the original.
no.
Like those movies, I think that all could exist and still fit in with Fury Road.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't call it a reboot because I feel like if they were going to do a reboot, they would have gone back to the beginning.
And did the origin.
I think we would have. I think they would have gone like the more recent Star Trek movies and some of that. That I feel like this fits as a sequel.
They did borrow. The only reason I would say that you could almost call this a reboot, they did borrow heavily from Road Warrior.
Yes,
there is
they
an
did, yes.
awful lot
Yeah.
that they borrowed from that movie.
I think this is probably. I mean, it's its own animal, which is interesting. It is in a way a reboot. I mean, this is because that's what it's doing. This is rebooting the franchise to make more movies down the road. It's its own animal, though. I think, which is interesting because a lot of it is you could take
there's a lot of similarities with Road Warrior in this one, as opposed to like Thunderdome or the original Mad Max. The story is the chase. It's a big chase sequence, which I think borrows heavily from Road Warrior.
I don't think you can get away from that, though. I mean, when you get down to the essence of what a Mad Max movie is, what is Mad Max? It's the Road Warrior. That's what you think of, and that's pretty much what every Mad Max movie is going to be, is the Road Warrior. So I think that's kind of a weird way of putting it. I wouldn't go so far as saying rebooting, perhaps restarting, not resetting, just restarting it for basically a new generation, but without eliminating the originals. And another reason why I say that is because I don't necessarily think that Mad Max is the kind of character or story that really needs or could be rebooted, because you could, like I've said before in the previous podcast, I mean, you can do anything with Mad Max.
Right.
And you could actually have any actor, well, not necessarily any actor, but you could put a different actor in that character's spot.
I think you could reboot this as an origin story. I don't think you should. I think it'd be very shitty.
Yeah, I think that'd be a bad idea.
I think it'd be a horrible idea, but I think you could.
Again, if you look at the parallels, right? So, I mean, Road Warrior, we established early on that Mad Max was once married, lost his wife, and it haunts him.
Mm-hmm.
Fury Road, we established early on that Mad Max lost his wife, and it haunts him.
Severely.
Right?
Severely haunts him.
A little bit later in Fury Road, Mad Max loses his car. Almost immediately into Fury Road, Mad Max loses his car.
Well, even
the main chase does not take place in the car that he's known for. It takes place in a diesel fuel tanker in both movies. I mean, there are so many. It's not just a thing here or there, or a concept here or there.
Right.
It is serious story pieces that they borrowed from Fury Road to make, Road Warrior to make Fury Road.
I agree. I agree. I think it's different enough where it's like, because I don't necessarily like the idea of hitting note for note, like Star Trek Into Darkness, which is really trying to at times be Wrath of Khan, and I think really shittily done. I think
where Star Wars mimics almost everything that they did in the previous movies.
Yeah, I think they did a good job with one of realizing that Road Warrior is the most popular of these movies, and we discussed in the earlier one about which we think is best. I personally think it's the best. So I think it makes sense that they're going to take beats, but I think they took the beats to keep it like, yep, this is kind of what people know, and then taking those beats and then expanding upon them and doing something slightly different with it.
And not just what they know, but what they want. Like George Miller knows that the audience wants to see shit blowing up.
Right.
And fucking awesome car chases, and he just went for it with Fury Road, and it shows big time.
And I think one of the things we talked about in the earlier podcast was the crazy characters in Mad Max, and this movie is full of them. Furiosa is an awesome character. Immortan Joe is a great villain. Immortan Joe's family is nice and crazy, and they've got their own things. And the greatest character ever, though, the Doof. The guitar player with
Immortan Joe is also played by the same guy who played the original villain in Mad Max.
Yep. He was actually supposed to play... George Miller was supposed to do a Justice League movie back earlier in the 2000 movies, and he was going to be the Martian Manhunter.
That would have been actually pretty cool.
Yep. So, yeah, George Miller likes working with him. But, No, Fury Road, I love the characters. It's a crazy-ass movie. And I think that was one of my favorite things about it. I think we were even talking about it at the theater when we saw it. Like, this is maybe one of the craziest mainstream movies I've ever seen. Because, at this point, Fury Road was a mainstream movie. It wasn't as big a budget as some others, but, this got a big promotional push. And, this is a big movie now. This isn't a little indie. And this is
with A-list stars even.
Yeah, and this is like the craziest fucking movie I've seen.
It's weird.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is like, it's just like you took a B movie director and B movie and just gave them a budget and said, here you go.
Yeah.
Yep. And here's some A-list stars to go with it. And they kept the weirdness, the totally just bizarre things. Like we talked about the characters and stuff. And when you meet Immortan Joe and like, all like his family, like you have the dwarf and
the banker.
Yeah. or the women that are being milked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just so weird.
Everything is weird. But I think one of the things I really liked
Was it
about
a banker or was it his accountant?
I don't
No,
remember.
it was that guy was the guy from Gastown, like
Yeah.
the head of Gastown, and then the other guy.
But he kept track of his finances for
yeah.
him.
Yeah, because I think he was the thing there was like he was like basically borrowing money from him, or
Yeah.
that was kind of the
He's
exchange.
like marking
is,
everything down, like this is gonna cost you this much.
Yeah.
That just blew up. Okay, that's how
So,
much this is gonna cost.
This is what you're gonna owe us in future gas or
Yeah.
water or whatever, aqua cola.
I think one of the things I really, really like about Fury Road that sets it apart again from other mainstream kind of movies is it doesn't feel the need to explain itself on a whole lot of stuff. Shit happens and you're just kind of told to go with it. Like, we don't need 10 minutes explaining. Like, we don't ever get a very huge explanation of the War Boys.
Suspension of disbelief happens immediately.
Right, you're just
Yes,
going,
exactly.
and you're going with the War Boys. Like, you get it enough, and you're like, go. But
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of other movies, you have 15 minutes explaining the War Boys, or you have shit ton of time explaining how he gets the water, or you have it takes forever to explain the wives, and like I feel like that's one of the things I really appreciate Fury Road that I think goes back to the earlier Mad Max movies is it never stops to explain the world it lives in. It just goes with it, and it does a good job of staying within the world it's in, that you go with it and you get it. You get it enough, like, yeah, I understand what's going on. I don't need to stop.
Well, the details are in the action. The details are in the presentation of the characters, as opposed
Yeah.
to people saying, well, I come from this tribe and this is what my tribe does because of this and that.
Right.
I
They,
wouldn't be
they all just, they have elaborate costumes which speak for themselves.
I wouldn't be surprised if there wasn't somebody that you could go to that could tell you all the stuff that they didn't tell us in the movie.
Oh, I'm sure.
That's how
I'm
much
sure.
details in that movie is that you
Right.
know that even though we don't spend a lot of time talking
Right.
about the War Boys, somebody's probably
they
got
know.
pages and pages and
Well, I
pages
mean,
of
George
backstory
Miller
on the
himself. I
War
mean, I'm
Boys.
sure he probably has just
Right.
notebook after notebook of all these little details and the creating the world that he's created. And that's in many ways that's a pretty typical thing of any screenwriter or novelist who's building a world. They tend to have a lot of, and especially in film, a lot of that stuff just kind of gets left in a room somewhere because you can't always translate all of it very well to film, but they still suggest that you make it. And George Miller just takes it to that other level where he's able to not only create this elaborate, very detailed world with its own mythology and its own backstories, but he does it without actually having to tell it to you. And it's a very much a collaboration thing too, where your costume designers, your makeup designers, your FX artists, your stunt coordinators, everybody is working together to create this brilliant world. And especially in Fury Road, it very much shines. It's very colorful, surprisingly colorful for an apocalyptic movie. And it's just brilliantly done because nobody has to explain a word. You just look at it and you can see, where a little detail like a guy's armor plate might have like a hubcap or something stuck to it, and you're like, oh well, I know where he got that from, or there might be a story there, and you can surmise that stuff yourself. You don't have to have the movie force feed it to you.
Yeah.
Like the War Boys needing the meat bags.
Yeah.
That they're sick, that they're all that they've got, he's got like cancer or something. You find out later he's got his lump,
Yeah,
Yeah.
You don't spend nobody like spends a lot of time talking about the War Boys, but actually in the early parts of the film, you spend quite a bit of time observing them, since that's where like you get all the stuff about like their car-based religion and everything, and
Custom steering wheels.
Yeah.
there's V8.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you see that, you observe them like in battle and their, like what they value and stuff. You get all that just by watching them, like where the one guy dies and they're all like waiting to see him like, spray himself and then
Yeah.
Who thought of huffing chrome paint? That's so beautiful.
That is the best.
Yeah.
shiny.
I love their religion.
I
Yeah,
thought it was
that's-
great too.
Their religion.
Valhalla.
Valhalla.
Wait, and it's such an interesting concept of the villain too, because it makes sense. It's like, how do you get people to follow you and be fine with blowing themselves up? And a lot of it is the promise of eternal reward at the end. So
Religion has a very strong tendency to do that to people.
Yeah, convincing them that if you die, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna come to Valhalla, and what do they say? No, not notice me.
Witness me.
Witness me.
Yeah.
Witness me is fucking awesome.
Witness me, blood bag.
It's one of the best lines in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Witness me, blood bag.
Yep. No, all that stuff is really, really great. So, but I think that's
what a beautiful day.
that's what makes Fury Road a very strong movie, and I like that. That's and again very different from other mainstream movies. That I think if you were going to take a different director and go a little bit more mainstream with a Mad Max sequel, which they could have done, and I think the best thing they did was George Miller did it. I think is the best thing that happened was George Miller directed this movie. He wanted to make it. He was passionate about it. But I'm terrified to think of the movie that would have happened if a studio would have had the rights and they're just like, we want to make a Mad Max reboot. I'm terrified of what that movie would be because I think it would suck. I think it would be really, really terrible.
I think that's kind of a hard thing to know for sure unless it was actually done. But yeah.
Could we get Adele?
You know what's gonna
Yeah.
happen?
Adele could be the new ruler of Bartertown instead of Tina Turner. And...
You
Yes.
know there's a very good chance that that's going to happen. I mean, you say that, but this movie was incredibly successful, which means it's an incredible potential money maker.
Oh, they're making more.
Oh yeah, they
exactly.
are.
But
that,
the point is,
that's going to happen.
The point is now you're going to have money people involved, and
Right.
money people. That's where bad scripts come from.
Well, I think the most
Yes.
important thing is, again, George Miller still controls it because I think the big thing about it was a success, but it's not a success on the level of superhero movies.
Right.
Like, it wasn't even the first place movie the weekend it came out. It lost to Pitch Perfect 2. But it was not a super expensive movie. It was...
Pitch Perfect too. I mean,
Right.
You also
Right.
have to keep in mind that Miller has been a very bankable director. That he's made some very successful properties.
Right.
Yeah.
I think he still has enough control that I'm not necessarily afraid of sequels. I think as long as Miller's...
I can't see
At-
the
at
studio
the-
kicking Miller off the project.
Well, that's true. I mean, he did make Thunderdome. He did make Thunderdome. So he has a Thunderdome in him.
But he made Happy Feet.
He
Which I
made
think-
Babe.
yeah,
made Babe.
Works. Happy Feet works great in Happy Feet. Let's just hope Happy Feet doesn't find its way into Mad Max.
He made Babe, which...
Dude,
Babe might
I'll
be
bet
one
you
of my
anything. You will
favorite
go back
movies
and you'll
ever.
watch Fury Road. You'll go back and you'll watch it, and somewhere in the War Boys little encampment there's gonna be a fucking penguin skeleton hanging on a wall,
I wish there was a pig.
stuck in a Happy Feet pose.
No, that's
Well,
what...
just subtly in the background.
Isn't his the dashboard ornament? Maybe it's not it's probably not actually a penguin, but it's like a bird. It's like
Yeah.
Yeah,
kind of
it's
a bobblehead of some
It
kind.
is some kind of bobblehead.
Maybe it's supposed to be a penguin bobblehead.
Okay, I'm gonna say something
be
that,
great.
that might be sacrilege, and maybe this should wait till the end. But in fact, yeah, I'm gonna let
Okay.
never mind.
Okay.
I'm gonna let it wait to the
All
end.
right,
Okay, we'll wait till the end.
There's a more suitable place to put this thought.
Okay.
Okay. So, yeah, Fury Road. Let's keep our discussion kind of... why does this work as a sequel? I think we've talked a lot about why this is a good movie. Why we think this is a really, really good movie. How does this work as a sequel? And I think, like we said, I think it does the thing that is important for a sequel is that it improves upon earlier things and it sets the world up to do more. And I think that's why it really works is we get this whole new universe, and I almost kind of love that we're kind of done, and they've pretty much said we're not doing more Furiosa. Furiosa's a great character, but what I like is her story's kind of done. I mean, you could do a whole interesting movie about Furiosa trying to take control of the town and lead that and the stuff that they're going to have problems with, but her story, in a way, is done. Like, I like that we're not going to get another Furiosa movie.
I like that too.
Because I think it makes more sense to stick around with, again, Max, like the earlier movies, Max going around and encountering these really weird shit. Road Warrior, he comes upon Humongous and the people with the tanker. Road Warrior, he ends up at Thunderdome, and then he ends up with the kids. Fury Road, he ends up with Immortan Joe. Like, and I think that's what works well, that it's just another story, and then when we could keep going is we could do another one, and it's just Max hitting another story. He encounters another group of people.
Well, I think that the big thing of why this works as a sequel and kind of why it works as a movie is because when somebody is really successful at creating a world like this in fiction, it should leave you with a sense of like kind of wanting to know more about it. And so like the worst thing a sequel could do is like explore it and then find out that it's like not very remarkable, or we just kind of rehash things we've already seen. But in
It's
this,
not super interesting.
in this, we go out and we're exploring and we're finding new ways that like humanity has reinvented itself in the apocalypse. So
Well,
I think it stands by itself too.
Yeah.
Just like any of the other ones. It's
Yes.
just like another, like I said before, a good point of a good sequel is that it stands on its own 2 feet. You could watch it by itself, having not seen the other movies, and still enjoy yourself, still know what's going on for the most part. I mean, you'll get a sense that something's missing, but you're still going to be able to enjoy it. It's not going to be so overwhelmingly strong that you're like, well, I'm lost. Because it's not a plot-heavy series.
I would
Yeah.
say
So-
that it's entirely that way. There's
Yeah.
nothing about the previous 3 Mad Max movies that is relevant to this movie, except for because you like Mad Max and you want to watch those movies.
Probably the
But you don't
family
need to know-
stuff.
But everything you need to know, I mean,
But they give you, they give you enough to know that he's lost somebody.
But I
So
mean,
you don't
it's the
necessarily
same
need
thing.
to have seen the first
yeah,
movie.
but it's the
think
same
about
thing that they give you in Road Warrior.
Right.
And essentially, it's the same thing that they give you in Mad Max because that's such a smaller part of that movie. So
Right.
you
I
don't
would like
need
to
it.
point something out really quickly. I think somebody had pointed this out to me too, but if I remember right, I think he might have actually altered his past a little bit with this one. When he's having his little flashbacks of his family, somebody told me something had changed, and I can't remember what detail it was, and I want to say that it had something to do with the child. Because if I remember right, his child in the first movie, wasn't that a boy?
It was an
I was
infant.
wondering
They got
about
run
that.
down on the road.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right. That's right. He
Yeah.
had a baby. He had an infant baby. But in
Fury Road is
Fury
a
Road,
girl.
yeah, he
Right.
has a little girl.
Was that just him fantasizing what she could have been? Or?
It could have been, but somebody said that was kind of an altercation because he
Again,
would
it-
never have known what she would have looked like. I mean,
I'm okay
it gives
enough
you
of
emotionally
changing
what you
that.
need to what you need to have to run with.
being haunted by somebody that you never met would be a little weird, I guess.
I'm okay with that. Like, well, it's the same thing we discussed in the last movie, that Road Warrior feels a lot different than Mad Max. I think it's kind of the same thing, that they may have altered some small things about the backstory, but I think not enough that it's, it feels like it feels like it fits. Now, which could be interesting. Go back to go back to the Road Warrior one, because we have an entire discussion about the idea that Max could be just a legend and none of the
He's a
stories.
myth in the wasteland.
Right. So we probably won't get much into that because we discussed that pretty heavily in the last one. But definitely go check that out if you haven't yet, because I think that's interesting. And it does fit a little bit into the idea of Fury Road, of casting a different actor, where you could say,
Yeah.
this is not necessarily the same guy that was in Road Warrior. He's just another person.
Who the society labeled as Mad Max as far
Right.
as the story is concerned. When they go on to tell the story, they'll tell it as it was Mad Max who was there.
Right.
Because they don't know who the actual guy was, because he never told them who he was.
I think he does say he's Max, though.
Yeah,
once.
he does.
He tells Furiosa at one
does
point.
say-
He does
it-
say that
but
my
At
name
the
is
end,
Max.
I'm
Yeah.
Max.
But I mean, a pretty small point that it could be, theoretically, it could work in the idea that he is a totally different character than what we've seen. This is not
Yeah.
the same character we've seen.
And I was going to bring up the myth again at one point, just to kind of going back to the idea of the reboot thing, is that's almost kind of what makes it all work in that respect. If Mad Max exists more as a myth in this universe, and you can put him in any situation and anything, then you really don't necessarily need to worry about rebooting
Right.
Mad Max.
I think that's the thing that makes me excited when you think about other movies that have, like I said, I mean, in a way, you could short term this by saying this is a reboot. Just short of hand. I mean, it's its own thing, but you could say, okay, this is a reboot, right? But I think what's interesting is this compared to a lot of other, say reboots is like think of Amazing Spider-Man when they rebooted that they went back and told his origin again. And the first movie is all of his origin. That again, that's why I think it really works is we didn't go back and redo. We didn't need to go back and see that. The glimpses were enough, and I think that's what makes it strong as a sequel as well, or a reboot, or whatever we want to call it. But I think that helps make it strong. Is we didn't need to go back to the beginning because we get it. It's enough. It's the same thing. Like we've had we don't need another Superman origin. We got that with Man of Steel. We get it. Krypton blows up. Spider-Man. He gets bit by a radioactive spider. He does what a spider can. So that's.
I think this has probably more.
That was a good way to fit the original theme song.
Right.
Yeah, that's good.
When it comes to the prequel, sequel, or not prequel, but the sequel reboot question, I think this probably has more in common with Prometheus.
I could see that. Yeah.
Than it does because it isn't. You could go back and forth. It isn't a direct reboot. It isn't a direct sequel either. It's a hybrid kind of of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I also
And
would like
it
to
could
say
have taken place at any point in its history.
It's a
Right.
great movie, whatever the hell it is.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. At the end of the day, it's just kick ass.
Whereas Prometheus was a
It was not
fairly
as
decent
kick-ass.
movie.
I
whatever it is.
Oh my god, we can talk about Prometheus and how
We're
much
gonna have
I
to do that.
fucking- I hate
That's a
Prometheus.
movie
I
worthy.
loved
I
Prometheus.
hate Prometheus.
I think that's a movie worthy of a podcast.
That's really a good one because I think already we've discovered that we have very strong feelings in either
Yes,
direction.
and I think we
about
can definitely. I think we can definitely talk about that one.
But yeah, we have all this love fest. A lot of the movies recently is all movies that we enjoy. It'd be fun to do one that we're diametrically opposed. But back to Fury Road, it's fucking awesome.
Yes.
That's like, God, that should be on. I know the DVD's already out, but can we put that as a pull quote? Put on the case of it. This movie's fucking awesome. Dirty Sprocket. They need that Dirty Sprocket bump.
Yeah, that would be nice. When
George Miller, you can use that.
When they decide to do the 10-year re-release
There you go.
special edition version of Fury Road, we'll be big enough by then we can be like, hey,
Yep.
you guys,
They
we
can
already
use-
got your cover quote for you.
Yep, they can use our pull quote.
And yeah, it's like you don't even have to say that because I don't know if there's ever been a widely released movie like this that's been this well loved all the way around.
Yeah, like critically, that's the fun thing with it too. Critics loved it, and people that went and saw it loved it. It's got a high viewer score, and it's got a great critic score. It's really widely regarded as a great movie, which is kind of fun, especially for the kind of movie it is. Which
That's
is
the
interesting.
biggest surprise of all. I'm
Yeah.
a big R-rated action movie.
Bloody,
Violence,
and all
very
sorts of
violent,
stuff, but
and very disturbing in some scenes. In fact,
yeah, but totally
baby.
awesome.
I
But
won't go into
enough.
detail with the baby.
but a great story. A very simple story, but it works being simple because it's pretty easy to understand.
Is this a love story?
No,
Are you sure?
I would say no. I think there's some elements in there, but I would not classify this as a love story.
I don't know what movie you watched, but all I saw was a man going after his wives, and that's love.
That was not the direction I thought you were going with.
Yeah,
Man risking everything to get his wives back.
Furiosa's the villain. Furiosa and Max are the
It was a
villains.
love story.
We've all been rooting for the wrong people this whole fucking time.
Oh my god.
What a revelation.
We just turned this movie on its head. Poor
But,
Morton
but
Joe.
history is written by the winners, so
Right. So
Right.
Morton Joe's the villain. If he would have killed them all, and then he would have been
then the brave, valiant, and Morton Joe
right. Yep.
and his war boys.
Y'all never watch that movie the same, though.
No, you never will.
You can do that with a lot of movies, though. And
Did you ever see the thing that the guy put out about how what's his name in Karate Kid is actually the good
Yes.
guy? That was so
the
awesome.
bully in Karate Kid is actually
Oh,
the
yeah.
hero.
Daniel's son is actually the big jerk.
I don't know if I've
Getting
seen that
high,
one.
causing problems.
He's the villain. Yep.
That's
No,
Morton
Cobra
Joe.
Kai.
Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Swoop the leg. I think, but I think that's actually one of the stronger elements. We were talking about in the earlier ones that I think the villains are very memorable from the Mad Max movies. They're not necessarily very deep, but I think Immortan Joe does. He's a very interesting character because, yes, on the surface he's a despicable character. I mean, he's awful, but we do see he does love his wives because there's the point where she falls out. And
The pregnant one, yeah.
Yeah, and he crashes his own car to avoid hitting her. You know.
Is it her
I don't
or
know.
is it the baby?
I think it's the baby.
Or the baby.
I think it's the baby.
It
more
could
than
be.
anything,
It could be
yeah.
the baby. But I mean, there is something. He cares about something enough, which I think makes it a little bit more than just I'm mustache twirling villain.
Yeah. He's not a shallow villain like that.
Right. He does have his stuff that he cares about. He's awful. I mean, he's raping these women, and so he's doing it. But at the end of the day, he cares about his baby. You know, he wants.
I am.
He's a good father.
I guess
I'm a lot
in a
more
roundabout
convinced.
kind of way.
I'm a lot more convinced that he can inspire followers at the level which they claim to love him
Right.
more than the first two bad guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
They
and
were
I
just-
think he's different. I mean, I think he's different. He's a lot different than like Humongous. I mean, Humongous is just. I think at the time he was the strongest
Yeah.
to run his gang.
He's a villain.
and it was a gang.
That's all. He's just.
and
a
it was
villain.
a gang. But yeah, Morton Joe is.
He's got a family. That's
And he
Yeah,
has
he's on a
leverage.
higher level.
And he has leverage. He has huge leverage. He
Yeah.
has access to all the water.
Right. I mean, but it's such a. He's a much different type of villain than like Humongous is because he's got his own religion built around him.
He's got an awesome car.
Yep.
that is a beautiful
That
truck.
is, isn't it?
Oh my God! All of the vehicles in Fury Road, just God. It's time to talk about this because we were talking about Road Warrior. We were joking. Robert was saying that if you go back and rewatch Road Warrior, it looks kind of slow and
Yeah. So
pathetic.
if you
the
didn't,
action
yeah,
sequences.
Yeah. If you didn't listen to the first podcast, you suck.
Yeah.
But so when you watch the first two movies, they're great car chases. I mean, the vehicles are cool.
Yeah.
They're fast. The stunts are crazy. I mean, I think there's one guy in Fury Road that flips his bike or something. He goes tumbling through the air. That is a real stuntman
Yep.
who really went tumbling through the air, and I think he almost died.
Yep.
Like I think
Well,
I remember
that
reading.
happened on Road Warrior also.
Yeah.
But
There-
then
there's
you
like
watch. But then you watch. Well, that's what I mean. And Road Warrior. That's,
Yeah, oh,
that's,
yeah,
that's the thing
okay.
I'm talking
You
about.
were
saying,
Yeah. But then you watch Fury Road, and it's freaking nuts.
Yeah.
And then today I watched Road Warrior again, and I'm like, man, this is kind of boring. This is slow.
Because Fury Road is so good at the car chase.
Mel Gibson is driving a semi that's only got one car body belted on it.
He doesn't have people with harpoon guns.
It's
and-
only one vehicle at a time.
Right. He's not pulling a trailer or three trailers behind him
Yeah.
I love.
that have two engines.
I
They
love,
don't have spikes sticking off of them.
Yeah,
Getting
I
impaled
loved
left
those
and right.
villains. I loved the villain, the porcupine villains.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
that are barely in the movie, but
The crows.
Yeah, the crows.
and the
yeah.
crows are fucking crazy looking. Like they looked. Watching that movie, it made me think of Return to Oz, the roller people in Return to Oz, the wheelies.
Yeah.
Where they've got the wheels on, they got like the long arms and they're on roller skates.
Yeah.
That's watching this. It just made me think of that movie because the crows are creepy.
Yeah. Those guys that were on the poles, though.
Yeah,
That was
those
probably
crows.
one of the most. Yeah, the crows. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
probably one of the most insane things I've ever seen. And watching the behind the scenes stuff on the Blu-ray, I was watching some of that stuff and how they figured out how to do it, and the rigs. They were actually built as if they were like post-apocalyptic rigs. I mean, they used like a real engine for the weight, the counterweight, and everything. And even Tom Hardy actually had to learn how to do it because of some of the extreme close-up work that they did with the cameras. There was no way to fake it other than to blue screen it or something like that, and they didn't want to do that. So
Right. I think. Shit, I just lost my point.
While you're trying to find it, I would like to say that the integration of their practical and digital effects
Yes, is
is
great.
amazing.
I saw somebody posted a thing online one time. It was because a lot of people say now like computer graphics are ruining movies. You know, oh everything's terrible because of that, and it's like no, bad computer graphics are ruining it. Good computer graphics, because as much as people want to say, I mean, Fury Road is a practical movie, but it's not fully practical. There's a lot of digital effects in Fury Road. They're just done extremely well.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big difference. I think it's not necessarily the movie's not awesome just because it's practical effects. It's awesome in the direction, and it's awesome in the integration, and it's great with the digital effects. So I think it is funny though that people are so much like, oh, I definitely agree that I think people should do more practical effects than they do, but
Definitely. It's CGI and digital effects in general, they're just like any other creative tool in the film world, and if used correctly, they can
they'll be awesome.
Be great.
Do them shitty, then they look terrible.
Yeah, and that's actually, I mean, you mentioned Prometheus earlier, and that's actually one of the things I really loved about Prometheus was Ridley Scott's use of practical effects and the integration of digital effects. And Fury Road does the same thing. Yeah, a lot of what you see, I mean, I would never even have been able to tell actually that Furiosa's arm is digitally in there because it was done that well. I mean, you can't even tell. I can't tell that that's a CGI. I mean, it actually looks like a prosthetic animatronic arm that they just built for her hand. And that's, I mean, obviously it is CGI because then there's no way they could have pulled it off the way they did. But
yeah. Oh, my point I was going to make, kind of talk about the story that I think works pretty well. Because Honest Trailers did Fury Road, and it was funny them explaining the plot. And it is funny that they explained that there's a kick-ass chase sequence that the climax of it is them turning around. Because that's the climax of the movie. We're going. We think
Spoiler alert.
We think we have a destination, and that's where we're going. We find out no. And then the big plot turning point is we turn around and go back. And it's so satisfying. I mean, it seems like that would be really stupid in a way that, like, negates it, but it's awesome.
Here's the thing, like, I've seen that used in other movies and it has been really stupid.
Yeah.
But it was more because, like, well, why didn't we just do that thing while we were there? But in this, there's actually a reason.
Right. The idea that Immortan Joe is gone.
Yeah.
He's left, and if we blow up the past, we can trap him.
It suddenly became, advantageous as opposed to just convenient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love that the plot point is they turn around. But it works. But it really, really works.
That was how it was introduced to me too. It was like, oh, I hope you're ready for the big twist. And when I was watching with my buddy, and then we get to this point in the movie, and he's like, oh, we're almost there. I hope you're ready for it.
And then we turn around.
I think it's one of the two biggest plot twists in a movie I've seen that, like, really, like, surprised me with what they were going to do with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I really liked. I think that's the thing that's interesting is that there is a lot of beats from, like, Road Warrior. We're talking about a lot of different things, but I think what it does well, and what makes it an interesting sequel as well, is it surprised me. A lot of sequels yet don't surprise you. A lot of times it's a beat for beat. It's kind of, this is what we're doing, this is where we're going, and that's what I liked with Fury Road. They weren't afraid to try a few different things that were surprising enough. Like, you're like, oh, I did not see that coming, which I loved. A lot of times in a lot of those movies, you're like, yep, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. So I think that also helps it make it a good sequel, is that they're not afraid to take risks.
They didn't register with me that way. They didn't hit me that way. I didn't see it as a surprise. They came to an impasse and they had to make a decision. And given the facts at hand, the best decision that they could make was to do what they did.
Right.
Without getting too into why and how, in case somebody hasn't watched the movie. Because
I hope you've watched the movie if you're listening to this.
But I can see where it would be a surprise, but it didn't hit me as a surprise. I wasn't like, oh yeah, I didn't see that coming. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. It's too bad they can't keep going. But
well, I mean, I guess I never actually saw it as being a twist, like an actual twist in the traditional sense of a twist. But I mean, it was just my buddy, when I was watching with him, he just kind of kept building it up that way.
Yeah.
And that was his way of being funny. The twist.
The ending of The Road Warrior was a more of a twist
for me. That's a straight up twist that it's
than this one was.
He wasn't taking the gas.
I think the thing is what makes this a good twist is, like, it evolves naturally. Like in the course of the movie, there's, like, a good reason for it. I think a lot of twists in movies, like, are just completely out of left field, and they're just they're kind of like,
you can't see it coming because it doesn't make sense.
It's like that's almost like a practical joke on the audience. It's like they're never going to see this coming because nobody ever fucking could.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's because we're not telling you anything about it. That's why
Yeah.
it's so far from left field that the ball's literally just going to hit you right in the neck and kill you.
Yep. But So yeah. Well, I think we're getting close to the end here, so we're going to go on to our next segment, which I think we've kind of answered at this point already, but we'll give everybody a chance to elaborate a little bit if they want. Is Fury Road a good sequel to the original Mad Max trilogy? And I'll go ahead and start, and I would say, and I've said it already, absolutely yes. I think this is a great way to take a franchise that is old and was dead, you know. I mean, I don't think there was a lot of clamoring for another Mad Max movie. By some people, yes. Some rabid fans, they wanted more, but I don't think this was a movie that was like, oh my God, everybody wants to see more of this. I think they took something that was done, you know, and found an interesting way to keep going with it and to set it up for future installments while retaining what made the originals great. So I think absolutely, I think it is a great sequel.
Fuck yeah. I think it's a great sequel.
Yeah, great sequel. That just when you make a world, like I said, you know, the best thing you do is make people more curious about exploring it, and this is actually a satisfying exploration of that world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I gotta agree, 100%. I think for me, this movie was a surprise, a pleasant surprise in every way. It was crazy, but it was crazy in the best ways. It was weird, but it was weird in all the best ways. And I think the thing that probably is best about it, when you have a sequel of something that's that old, I'm going to use Star Wars for an example for a minute. Sure. There's going to be a ton of people that are just not going to like Star Wars because of nostalgia for the old Star Wars. Right?
And we already had this happen, as a matter of fact, because this is already a proven point because of the prequel trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. But the thing about this movie, to me, it made everything before it unimportant. Like, none of it mattered. I didn't miss Mel Gibson, and Mel Gibson did a great job as Mad Max. I mean, he was an awesome Mad Max, but as soon as Hardy hit the screen, he was Mad Max for me.
Yeah.
There was nothing about this movie that left me wanting. I mean, it was perfect.
I think what's interesting is a lot of times, no matter what, you're going to have people that are going to, fans of the original trilogy, a lot of times are going to dislike the new thing because it's the new thing. And I think, now I could be wrong, I'm sure there's some people that don't, but I'd say the vast majority of people that like the original movies liked Fury Road. You know, that the fans of Mad Max really enjoyed this movie, and I think that says a lot for what it is.
I think it says a lot about Miller, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To really up the ante the way he did. I mean, you can tell he definitely has a love for stunts and big action sequences.
He likes the character in the universe that he created.
Yeah. And he really ran with it.
There's care. There's care to it.
Yeah.
You know, of keeping going with it. So, all right. Well, we're going to round out the discussion tonight with our last segment, which is, what is your sequel to Fury Road? Now, which is fun here is because there is not a sequel. A lot of times, movies we've done, there's been other movies. There is no sequel yet to Fury Road, but there's being one made. So the fun thing is, what is your sequel to Fury Road? Anybody want to start us off?
I'll start, because you guys are not going to like what I got to say.
Well, naturally.
Shocking.
I already don't like it.
Okay, so again, it's going to be, I kind of have two ideas. And the one is a piggyback from the last show, which is I wouldn't mind seeing a version where Mad Max, Tom Hardy's Mad Max, has got to butt heads with Mel Gibson as some kind of villain.
Yep.
Right. The other one is, and this is where you guys are going to disagree with me on, and I'm really kind of disappointed that we didn't talk more about Furiosa. I want to see a Furiosa movie. I disagree with you that her arc is finished because we leave her in... What is the name of that? Is it Watertown? What is the name of that their little settlement that she...
God, I can't even remember.
All right, the point is that she's...
We know what you're talking about.
Okay, so presumably she's going to take over this...
Right.
Presumably.
Problem is she's got two competing... She's got Gastown and Bullet Town.
Right.
That are not going to be friendly to her.
Yeah.
And she has all the characteristics of Mad Max.
Mm-hmm.
But she's a woman. And that would take us in a much different direction than Mad Max. We've seen 4 Mad Max movies now, right? And if we're going to go with your legend idea...
Yeah, I was just going to say,
there's nothing more awesome to add to the story than if our next Mad Max was Furiosa.
Sure. Well, I didn't necessarily mean that Furiosa's arc was done. I think there's like I just meant Furiosa's arc in terms of Mad Max is done.
Furiosa turns into a Morton Joe, and she has like a harem of men. And
Was it from Dark Knight?
just becomes,
Live
like,
long
the
enough
female
to
equivalent.
become the villain.
Yeah.
yes,
I know. I'm not gonna hate on that.
No, I wouldn't hate on that either. I don't think it's a necessary movie, though.
I would rather see, in that regards, I would rather see what we would talk about a spin-off. I'd almost rather see a spin-off of Furiosa because I'd like to
Yeah.
see more of Tom Hardy's Mad Max, but I would definitely be okay with seeing more of Charlize Theron's character. To see another story with her because she was great. And you're right, it is too bad we did not talk a lot about her.
And it does almost kind of seem like they built her up enough to where it would feel like you'd get more of her. Over time that we'd get
Right.
more movies with Furiosa.
I find her a very compelling character, and I'd love to see another movie with her driving the story,
Yeah.
which she essentially did. I mean, you could easily make the argument that this was Furiosa's movie,
Oh, absolutely.
and Max
Oh,
was just
very easily.
a supporting
Yeah.
character.
Right.
No, and I think that's absolutely true. It is Furiosa's movie.
yeah, it's a very different character when it comes to Max in this movie because what he really reminds me of is Charlie Chaplin, where Charlie Chaplin kind of is just like getting bounced around in his movies and experiencing things like
He's not driving the.
He's kind of like the C-3PO.
he's like and like in modern times he just kind of like bounces around through. It's like him going through a machine basically. Like he just kind of gets swept up in all these things and
he's not driving the bus.
Yeah.
Well, and like in the original Star Wars trilogy, George Lucas always proclaimed that C-3PO and R2-D2, that's the perspective from which the story is being told, but it's not necessarily centered on those characters.
Right.
And so like Mad Max is sort of like the same thing where it's his perspective. We're seeing things from his point of view,
Right.
but the story revolves around the other characters.
No, I think that would be an interesting movie.
He's just not quite as bumbling as C-3PO or Charlie Chaplin. He doesn't have much of a sense of humor.
No. So, okay. No, that was good. Well, I've got my ridiculous one, and then I've got my more serious one. My ridiculous one is, like Road Warrior, he has his dog as his companion, but in the next one, he gets Babe, and he has a talking pig accompanying him in the wasteland, which you could work because he's crazy.
He's crazy.
So we could have a talking pig travel along with him.
Where the hell did that even
He says-
come from? How did you?
George Miller directed Babe.
Yeah, but what? All right, why not Happy Feet?
Because fuck Happy Feet.
Okay.
Because Babe's a great movie.
You can't have a penguin in the desert.
Babe is one of my favorite. No, in all seriousness, Babe is one of my favorite movies ever made. I love that movie, so I would love to see Babe and Mad Max crossing the wasteland. That would make me very happy.
Okay, now can we hear
Now
your humorous one?
a more serious movie.
That wasn't the serious one?
Your movies are so terrible. Every one.
No,
of them,
they're
all
amazing.
God- They're all
They're
god awful.
amazing. That
one
was
of them.
that was gold. I just gave you gold, Robert. No, I think a more serious one is I would love kind of a continuation idea. I like that again. If we did another one, that it be somebody else's story. I think would be great again. That Mad Max teams up with somebody else and kind of lives the story. I think what would be interesting is kind of where there's some beats from Road Warrior in this. I would like a few beats from Thunderdome in the next one. Now I don't want to see Thunderdome in it, but I think it would actually be really interesting to come upon. And the other one we had talked about, Matt had an idea of him actually coming to civilization. I would be more interested in seeing Max hang out in a town in the post-apocalyptic wasteland, like a story that maybe is a little bit more centered, maybe a little less car-centric. Because Fury Road's awesome. I don't necessarily want another Fury Road, exactly that movie. I think it'd be fun to have him team up with somebody in a town, and it's a little bit more based there, where he's helping somebody.
Mad Max Suburban Road.
Suburban Road.
Mad Max,
I kind of
the
like
cul-de-sac.
that idea. I kind of like that idea, actually. I think it kind of goes very much in hand with Robert's original idea as well, with having him being settled and everything. I think that's
Yeah, well, So we were talking about the game.
the more I think about it, the more I can almost kind of picture it, like in my head. You know, the rest of the town is going along with their everyday lives, and Max is just the guy who lives like right outside of town in the dirty shack, and he's always on his porch just sleeping with his feet up until shit starts going down.
Yeah.
And now he's got to dust himself off, and I got to go to work. You know.
Well, it kind of makes me think of. I kind of take that a little bit from we were talking about before we started podcasting the Fallout series, which has a lot, owed to Mad Max. But I think some of my favorite parts of the Fallout series are the weird towns that exist. And I think that would be fun. I think it'd be a good place to center, because it's finding places to kind of center the action. Fury Road, the action center around a road. I mean, it's a car chase, which is great. But the next one, let's center it around something different. Like I said, I don't necessarily want to see Fury Road again.
Right.
It was great. It was almost a perfect movie, so I don't need to see this again. I'd rather see him take it in a slightly different direction. So that's mine.
So what you're saying is Mad Max needs some super mutants.
Yes, I'd be okay with super mutants.
A Mad Max horror movie.
Yeah.
Oh my, yes.
Yeah, there you go.
Yes.
But in this universe, there's a character that'll actually do shit about things that are going on.
Yes. There's like vampires, and Mad Max goes out and kills them.
Hey, it would also be the best excuse in a horror movie not to have cell phones
Yes.
Yep, we have
Yes,
an
it
explanation
would.
right there.
That would be great.
or not to call the cops.
Yes. You can get away with those kind of. You can
Yes.
completely defy all the classic horror movie tropes.
Yes.
Oh, that would be great.
So was that your movie, Matt? Or was that just something you threw out there?
I
Okay.
just thought I'd throw that
That
out
is
there.
great, though.
I do like that
that
idea.
would be
That's
fun.
great.
Okay. So what's your actual movie here?
Well, I've got a couple of thoughts. Like, I think it would be cool if they went to a location that would be different aesthetically from what we've seen. Like, if they actually went to the coast, would be cool and explore what's going on there. But like, if we just wanted to like embrace what's going on now, like, how about like a race, like some huge race that's
a
like
death
maybe
race?
a competition.
And
Yeah,
then they
like
could call it Death Race.
Yes.
that's what I was thinking. But you could get like all the different. You could have different representatives from all the different like cultures and stuff that have evolved. Like maybe you could have like some war boys or something racing, and then somebody's like, well, we need somebody to race. So hey, you like to drive? You want to race for us, Max?
At the very least, you could probably fit a Furiosa cameo into that.
Yeah, like she's there, like watching it.
She's
or
an
something.
observer. Yeah, she's just
Might as well get Jason Statham on board.
You might as well.
Let's get him in there. No, I love that. That'd be a very fun movie.
And then just for the hell of it, we can CGI Anakin Skywalker's
Getting blown
pod
up.
racer in there.
I was also thinking too, like while we're at that, there's distinct lack of meth in these movies. So
You saying we need more? Are you?
I'm just gonna throw that out there. That like it seems like there should be some illegal drugs in this world.
Nice.
Because that's one thing that people will
I
always.
don't know that that's okay, Matt. We can't advocate for more drugs in cinema. I think that's a huge step backwards.
Well, no,
for
but
mankind.
that is a very
We
interesting
need
point, though. I mean,
more
we are in a
drugs.
post-apocalyptic world here, and the closest thing we get to drug use was the spray paint.
Right.
Cologne,
You know, there's rampant unemployment. People aren't feeling good about themselves.
There's a little bit of alcohol
Oh
abuse
my
in the
God,
previous
yeah.
movies, I
Yes.
think, but
Yeah,
there's
kids
not much for
huffing
drug
paint
use.
everywhere. Matt's like, we need some designer drugs.
Max is
up
gonna
in
break
this
bad.
bitch.
That's why Dread is one of the best movies out
Yes.
there.
Exactly.
Yes. Yep. Max breaks
Exactly.
bad. Cook some
So
burritos.
there, that's my two
Max in
cents.
his underwear.
Okay.
He also wears tidy whities like Walter White.
Yep.
I am the one who knocks.
All right, Ryan. Those are good.
Yeah, those are good, actually. I think everybody seems to have two, and I've sort of got two as well. And I have my fun one, which is kind of going back to the previous podcast as well, but kind of expanding on it a little bit, not just perhaps Waterworld, but I almost think it would be kind of fun if they literally just remade all the movies that were basically ripoffs of Mad Max, but have them actually star Mad Max.
It's like
we
those
could put
Italian knockouts.
you just stick Tom Hardy in to Escape from New York.
Yes.
And and remake Escape from New York and
Cyborg.
remake Cyborg, just any of those post-apocalyptic movies or any movie that takes place in such a universe, and just remake it with Tom Hardy's Mad Max.
Yep.
And just go that direction. But otherwise, as far as a serious sequel goes, I don't know. I think we've pretty much touched on them. I mean, I have to agree that I think it's time. I definitely don't want to see another Fury Road. I would like to see them take a completely different direction with it. Obviously, something that has to stick is the stunt work. I mean, if we can't, it's going to be tricky because George Miller would have to find a way to create that same sort of like breathtaking, jaw-dropping spectacle of the stunts and the practical effects, but do it without the car chase this time.
Sure.
I kind of leaned towards the idea of a prison movie where he's stuck in like just a post-apocalyptic prison or something like that.
Yeah.
But I couldn't honestly tell you why he's there. I mean,
There doesn't need to be much of a
Yeah.
reason. That's just awesome. It's to get him in prison.
yeah, I mean,
It's Escape from Alcatraz, but with Mad Max.
exactly, and
Sounds
yeah,
like you're talking about the Postman.
yeah.
Let's remake The Postman.
Exactly. Like I said, you could take any of these movies and put Mad Max in the lead character, and it's Mad Max.
I gotta say,
is
Mad
it
Max
bad?
versus Snake Plissken would be.
Yes.
That would be pretty
Combined.
awesome, actually. Kurt
Is
Russell.
it bad that I like The Postman a lot?
I like the Postman. I also like Waterworld. I
I've
like those movies.
I actually like
Petty's
those
in The
movies too,
Postman.
but not in the sense that I think that they're great movies. I liked them because they were dumb, but dumb in a good way.
Oh,
I
yeah.
love the fact that the bad guy in the Postman was an ex-Xerox salesman.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
My dad loved that because my dad fixes copiers, and he thought that was the greatest thing. That was the villain.
But yeah, anyway, I think that would probably be
Yeah.
will be a prison movie actually.
No, that'd be awesome.
And but like, oh man, it's tough to think of anything that would be good that hasn't already been done, and not, like I said, it's tough to think of a Mad Max movie and not have it actually be a movie that's already been done. Like,
Right.
like if I was going to do the prison movie, I would have the prison be a whole city, but I think that's been done.
But I think that's the
That's Escape from L.A.
Right. But I
Well,
think
it's
that's
Escape
the
from New
interest-
York too.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I guess it is actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that you mention it, yeah.
I think that's the interesting thing with Mad Max, though, is you can take. I think with all the movies, you can take. They're not maybe the most original movies either, but they found an interesting take on it, and I think that's the thing. Is I think you can borrow something. You can put Mad Max in a different setting, and as long as you have a creative way of doing it, I think you're fine.
But I think that goes back to the long lines of what I said before, that, the Road Warrior is like the grandfather of all these post-apocalyptic movies that we know these days, and it's,
Right.
you can find it in every one of those movies.
Right.
Yeah, but those
so
aren't
it's-
the. I mean, the plot and stuff like that's not what you remember about Mad Max, right? What you're gonna remember about Fury Road is flame throwing
Yes.
guitar,
Yep.
right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the it's the world that
Yeah.
matters. I mean, so you could do a city prison,
Yep. And I think you're
but
fine.
that Mad Max world is gonna make it. A much
And if
different
George
experience.
Miller is the guy in charge of it, he can make it work. And I just like to see what he would do with skyscrapers.
Yeah.
I'm down with
as
Waterworld.
opposed to vehicles.
Like,
Or vampires.
Or vampires. Yes.
all of it, or Babe.
We could do I Am
My little-
Legend with Mad Max.
There you
Mad
go.
Max goes to America.
So no, I like that. I think George Miller. I hope you were listening. I think we have some great ideas, especially mine.
Yes. Just remake Waterworld, please.
Yeah, there you go.
Just do
So yeah, I
Get
think
rid of the gills.
yeah, that's a yeah. But I think with that, I think we're good. I think we've discussed Fury Road a ton. So I think with that, we're going to call it an evening. Make sure you go back and listen to some of the other MySequel podcasts. Also, make sure we have other podcasts available and short films, things like that, comedy shorts, all that. Make sure you check that out. Also, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And especially if you have a sequel you would like us to talk about, make sure to leave a comment and let us know. Who knows? Maybe we'll do it.
I want to know what they think.
Yes. Also,
A good sequel from
yes,
Mad Max.
what would be great too in the comments. Let us know what is your sequel to Fury Road. I would love to hear it. So, I think with that, we're going to go ahead and call it an evening. So, thank you for listening. Thanks for sticking with us, and we'll see you next time.